I'm Kristen here at Flowers and Fancies, and I'm going to show you how to put together a basic terrarium. All of these ingredients are in our terrarium kit online, so you could go ahead and purchase the DIY terrarium kit and have all of these things pre-packaged for you, so you really just kind of have to dump them in and arrange your succulents where you want them to go in your bowl. But if you'd like to do it yourself, or if you'd like a little bit more customization, I'll show you different places here where you can add things. So the first thing that we're going to put in our bowl is the sand. And the reason that we're putting the sand in first is because it has the smallest grain. So if we put the pebbles in first, for instance, the sand would fall through it. Use your hands to get it kind of flat. You want to have enough in there that you can see it as a layer. And I mean, you can really kind of do it to taste like what you think you like the best. If you order our DIY kit, you can really just dump the entire bag right in the bottom, or you can do the majority of it into it and then hold on to a little bit if you want some brighter sand up at the top of your terrarium as an accent as well. So just gonna put this in probably about an inch, and you're gonna want to press it flat either with the spoon or your hand, and you can even make a little bit of a depression in the center, so we're beginning to make it a little bit more bowl-shaped. The next thing that you're going to put in is the small pebbles. So if you order our kit, again, you'll have a baggie of pebbles that you can just go ahead and add right into your terrarium bowl. So I'm going to go ahead and add this. Add it gently around the outsides first. A little bit here. And the reason is, we really want to be able to see this because it's making another layer. So sometimes what happens is if we put it all in flat and you start planting on top of it, everything sort of mushes down and then you don't see any of the pretty layers at the bottom. So put it on the outside first so it can be seen, and that'll be the thickest layer. And then take the rest and fill it in the center on top of your sand. And again, this is going to make kind of a little bit of a bowl shape on the bottom here. You always give your bowl a little shake or a tap to sort of settle everything out gently. The next layer we're going to put in is the moss. So in our kit, you're going to receive fresh sheet moss, and you're going to want to wet it before you use it. It helps make it a bit more pliable, and also that's going to be some of the moisture that you use to initially feed your succulents. So when you get your moss, you want to kind of unroll it. Now I've already wet this. You can do it with a spray bottle, or you can just take the entire thing, put it under your sink and run the water through it, and then squeeze it out so that all of the excess water runs through. And what it looks like, oh my gosh, it's so messy. You've got a green side, which is the moss, and then you have the barky dirt side, that is whatever it was growing on. And we're gonna put the green side down and the dirt side up. And what that's going to do is form a barrier so that all of our potting medium and the dirt from the succulents can't go through and make our layers. But we want to have everything up to about here when we plant. So you don't want to like start and get a little like overexcited and put a ton of layers in, and then when you get to the moss and the dirt, you're way up here. That's not going to give you enough space to actually put your succulents in. You want to try to get to about midway on the bowl because that's going to give you the most space to pot in. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in. You can just tear it how you want it. I'm going to try to keep it in a big sheet if you can, because that way less dirt goes through. Put it right on into the bowl. And we're going to push it to the outside and press it down really good. So as you can see, it's pretty much right up at the middle of the bowl, which is where we want it to be. And then you're going to also receive a little bag of dirt. And you only want to add enough to cover the barky bottom of your moss, because we're also going to have all of the soil from the actual succulents that we're planting in there, so that's going to increase that as well. So we just want a little bit in there to start. That's going to just give us something to start potting into. And then we're going to start with our succulents. So it's good to kind of have an idea of where you want them to go, but sometimes the height of the succulent is what's going to make that decision for you. So right here we have, this is actually a concho. It's really cool. It has a nice little fuzzy leaf. Since it's a little bit taller, when you put it in, if you try to put it to the outside and it's touching the top, you don't want that. anywhere where moisture can collect and sit on these petals, it can cause mold, or it could just make the petal basically fall apart. So we're gonna wanna put our taller ones more towards the center in this case, because that way they can reach up out of the bowl. So you're gonna kinda squeeze your pot all around. I'm gonna shake off some of that soil. It's interesting, all of these succulents have really different like root systems. Some are like really intense and thick, but most of them are pretty light and like little fine hairs sort of. So you wanna be careful not to break too much. Some of them will break, and that's okay, but they'll regrow in the dirt. But just want to get them exposed, some of that soil loose, and squeeze it a couple of times to get some of it off. Shake it, okay? And then take any ugly petals or ugly pieces off that look like they're maybe a little bit damaged. You can do that now while it's easier to access, because once it's in the bowl, it's a little tougher to get around it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this sort of where I want him to go. And I'm not going to get too aggressive about potting them in each place until I have them all in there and in the place where I want them to be, so they can still move them around a little bit. So I know I want him to go here, so I'm gonna make a little bit of a ditch for him to sit in, and just kind of place him for now. And I'll come back to him in a sec. I'm gonna do my second tallest one next. This is like more of your traditional looking succulent. It's a little bit taller, very gentle. These ones that have the kind of thicker petals break very easily, so you want to be really careful with them. Get some of that dirt off. I'm going to do this guy in the center next to my other one. And I got some of these flatter ones, like florets. They're super nice. A lot of these are potted in these big pots because they're expected to get a little bit larger. So there's a lot of dirt on the bottoms, so you'll probably have a lot of dirt left over. So this guy's gonna go over here. Gonna work underneath. I'm gonna turn this so you can kind of see what's going on here. We're starting to make really pretty layers. And this one is kind of like more like a cactus. These are really cool. These are ones I was talking about that have a way denser root structure. They're really big, so you just want to be very careful unfurling them. Get a big mess. Put him right here. Okay. So once all of my plants are sort of where I want them to go, I'm going to go back to using my spoon to fill in with the dirt around them. Any sand from your bag, you could put a little bit more of it up on the top. It just gives like a pretty sort of like deserty quality to the soil. And plus, as the sand filters through into the soil, it'll actually help keep it from getting too wet. Succulents typically do like sandy soils, so that's kind of a bonus, is that as it works through, it'll actually be doing a little bit of work for you, keeping your terrarium in good health. And then you get to decorate. So I like to picture it as a little landscape. If you order the succulent kit from us, the terrarium kit from us, we have reindeer moss and sea glass and seashells and river rocks for you to play with, but working with kids sometimes it's sort of fun to incorporate those little animals from the craft store, or even like little army men and stuff like that is really cute if you're doing it for one of their rooms. So feel free to just get wild with it, put little toys and cool stuff in. Or you could get different colors of moss and things like that. You want to keep it natural. So the reindeer moss is good. It stays moist in humid air for the most part. If you notice that it's starting to dry out, just give it a little spritz. And this is another thing. It's decoration, but it also helps keep the moisture in your pot. So what we're doing here is we're just creating little like moments of color, little pops of color, and also providing some moisture for our plants. I'm gonna have some on the outside so we can see it on the outside of the bowl. And then the larger rocks are great, these river rocks, because they actually kind of help keep the succulents where they are. So if you have some that are kind of like wiggling around to one side or the other, you want to create a little more space or separation between some of them, you can use the river rocks to sort of hold one up or push one in the direction that you want it to go. I'll just use a couple of these, because it just like, again, makes it like a cool little landscape in here. you can group them together, put them around. The sea glass is nice too because it gives it a really nice beachy feel, and because they're usually a little bit larger like this, almost like shards, you can sort of stick them into the soil so they're coming out sort of jagged, and they look nice when you put them together in groupings also. And they help as well to sort of keep your succulents spread out from each other a little bit, especially if they're kind of falling into each other when you planted them. And some of this, and some seashells. I'm gonna throw a couple of these guys in, just so you can see them on the outside. Something beachy. There we go. And then, once you've gotten all your goods in and you're happy with how it looks, then you can go back in with your paintbrush. Well, this guy's gonna go right here. Go back in with your paintbrush and just brush everybody off so you get any dirt out that's collected in your little succulent florets. And then when you water it, you're gonna either want to use a mister to sort of just like mist a little bit in there, or you want to take a small watering can and try to get it to the moss or the dirt or kind of along the side of the bowl. You don't want to water directly on top of your succulents. Any water that gathers in that floret will eventually lead to the petals rotting. They don't like standing water on them. So make sure you're watering around it. And especially in a humid environment, you'll probably only need to water this like once every 2 weeks. Or just misting the moss in there. You can take these little guys out, give it a mist to run it under the water and stick them back in, and that'll increase the humidity in your terrarium without having to necessarily water them. So there's a couple of different options with that. And then you want to put it in a sunny window and watch it grow. So of course, if you have any questions, you can always call the shop and ask for our expert advice. And when you call and order the terrarium kit from us, it also comes with a synopsis of what I basically just told you right now. In order, the order that you want to put your layers and the tips for planting and maintaining your terrarium. So that is all for now. Happy planting, everyone. Thanks for watching. For more inspiration and availability, visit flowersandfancies.com or call 410-653-0600 and follow along with us on Instagram and Facebook.